So if you take a look at this chart, which comes from the Dick Grove School of Music, he has this circle of fifths and circle of fourths concept laid out in another linear way, but broken down by tetrachords. Tetrachords are basically the building blocks of major scales. And all a tetrachord is a four-note grouping of notes that goes whole step, half step. So in the key of C major, it's C to D is a whole step, D to E is a whole step, and E to F is a whole step. That's a tetrachord. That's a C major tetrachord, C, D, E, F. Now I can connect tetrachords by whole step. So if I go C, D, E, F, and I play a new tetrachord, a new major tetrachord starting on a whole step away, G, I get G, A, B, C. Whole step, half step. So the whole thing is whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So if I connect these two major tetrachords by whole step, that gives me the major scale. So C, D, E, F, and here's the G tetrachord, G, A, B, C. And when put together, that's the C major scale. Here's where things get interesting. The upper tetrachord of the C major scale is the lower tetrachord of the G major scale. The upper tetrachord of the G major scale is the lower tetrachord of the D major scale. The upper tetrachord of the D major scale is the lower tetrachord of the A major scale. The upper tetrachord of the A major scale is the lower tetrachord of the E major scale. So you can see that this starts a circle. So now you can see the pattern. And so you can see how this order of notes goes in a cycle of fifths. You can also notice that if we're looking at the middle column, that you start getting more and more sharps by 1 degree. So you can see the first one, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, has no sharps. The next one down, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. That's our G major scale. That's where the F sharp comes from, and that's why F sharp is the first sharp in the order of sharps. And you can see this relativity here. If we go to the next one, D, E, F sharp, G, but we go to the next tetrachord, A, B, C sharp, D, now we have two sharps. If we go to the next one, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So you can see as these tetrachords are connected to each other, it builds the major scales, and as they go in the cycle, you start adding more and more sharps, and this is where the order of sharps comes from. So we've established that the upper tetrachord of any given scale becomes the lower tetrachord of a new major scale a perfect fifth away. So for example, the upper tetrachord of the C major scale is the lower tetrachord of the G major scale. The upper tetrachord of the G major scale is the lower tetrachord of the D major scale, and so on. But we can look at this in reverse. What if we look at the lower tetrachord of each major scale? The lower tetrachord of the C major scale, C, D, E, F, is the upper tetrachord of the F major scale. So let's look at the F major scale. F, G, A, B flat connect to the C tetrachord, C, D, E, F. So the lower tetrachord of any given major scale is always the upper tetrachord of another major scale a perfect fourth away. And this is where you get your cycle of fourths and your order of flats. So hopefully this lesson has clarified some things and made it easier for you to understand how keys are related and how to learn key signatures for all of your major keys and relative minor keys.